Directed by James Wan, we finally have the sequel to the first Aquaman, which came out a few years ago, and that was a really well done movie. Now we have Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. Let's get into this review. This story was written by David Leslie Johnson McGoldrick, James Wan, Jason Momoa, Thomas Pius-Sibbett, Matt Weisinger, and Paul Norris. So before I get into anything else, I will say overall this was a very fun and entertaining movie. I have come to terms with the fact that a lot of people just want to hate on things nowadays, and I've said this in many videos prior to this. And it's just pretty prevalent now, and it's even more evident after seeing this movie. Yes, I will say I am hugely biased when it comes to DC, Marvel, Star Wars, anime, Transformers, anything truly nerdy or sci-fi, fantasy, action, adventure. I think a lot of people who love that stuff are pretty biased towards it, but there are people like myself and a lot of others who will kind of take that bias out and be real and let you know whether or not the movie is actually really good or not, and say that they personally like it because of their personal preference. Like, I personally really enjoyed this movie, not only because of personal preference, but I think that it was actually pretty well made for the most part, and it was a fun time, a great popcorn flick. The movie knew what it was. It kind of played on itself at times when you think about it. If you've seen it, the humor was there, it was pretty funny. The chemistry between certain characters that we'll get into later on in this video was really well done. My friend Anthony and I, we were actually talking about it after we saw the movie, and we're saying this kind of reminded us of like the Saturday morning cartoons with the boom, pow, kaploom, kapooey, you know, like it's like a straight out of a comic strip movie. And that's kind of what we as superhero fans have wanted for years now. It's like people have forgotten that where these movies came from and where the idea behind all these movies and TV shows came from, which was, case in point, the comics. A lot of gibberish and a lot of silliness in the comics. You know, there's a lot of silliness going on in the comics. So when people degrade a lot of these movies, especially DC movies, so heavily because, oh, it was too silly, or it's this and it's that and the other thing, and when it's not, actually not that bad, it's just like, you guys forget where we came from. You guys forget when you were kids playing with these action figures and doing all the silly noises and pretending and trying to make the panels on the actual comics come to life in your mind. Now it's actually coming to life in live action, and we're getting that. We're getting spoiled as comic fans, and people are just degrading all of these things and saying that it's just absolutely and utterly terrible when they're not even half that bad. It's so popular to hate things now that people are hopping on the hating train and just want to hate any and everything under the sun just because others say so. So of course you have Jason Momoa, who plays Arthur Curry, aka Aquaman, one of the members of the Justice League, a new father, and the King of Atlantis himself. Patrick Wilson makes his return as Orm, the previous King of Atlantis and the previous Ocean Master. Yahya Abdul-Mateen II, he plays Black Manta, and this time around, I liked him when he played Black Manta in the first movie, but I like the way how he got involved, especially with the Black Triton that we'll get into later on in this review, and his acting and portrayal of possession and everything that you've seen in the trailers, so this is no spoiler. His portrayal of everything was really spot on. The beloved Nicole Kidman reprises her role as Atlana, and we have Randall Park, who plays Dr. Stephen Shen. And another fact, which a lot of people obviously know, is that Randall Park played Detective James Woo in the MCU. So seeing him in this movie, I was like, oh hell yeah, I love this. And I would love a series just on him trying to figure out random cases in the MCU. So seeing him here in the DCEU, or at least the end of the DCEU, was pretty nice too. Tamira Morrison, Dolph Lundgren, and Martin Short all star in this movie as well. So this is a pretty well-studded cast when you think about it. Such amazing actors and actresses in here. A lot of talent and a lot of good chemistry. I'm going to quickly go over the plot. So in this previous movie, they talked about how there were 7 kingdoms of Atlantis, and they all kind of dissipated, and some of them got together, and then there was one that was removed for the records, which was the Lost Kingdom. Now, this movie is mainly centered around that and the Black Triton and where that came from. So back in the olden times of Atlantis, there was King Atlan and King Necrus, and they both were brothers. Now, King Atlan is the one whose blood flows through Arthur's veins, and King Necrus was the ruler of the Lost Kingdom, or the 7th Kingdom at the time, but now considered the Lost Kingdom. Because of King Necrus's idea that he wanted to do, and that he did successfully do, and it altered the course of his entire kingdom, including himself, his followers, and the people there too. His followers, the ones that were like around him trying to protect him, and his actual subjects. Something that he did affected himself and everybody. So that is one thing that led to a war between the two brothers. King Necrus got locked away, and now this Black Trident that somehow got made, it was lost in time, whatever, discovered by Black Manta. Then you get the whole possession thing that you see in the trailer, and you see that he becomes way stronger than he was before, completely different, taking on Aquaman, and he wants vengeance for the fact that Aquaman pretty much killed his dad in the first movie, and you know, rightfully so, because he was kind of a piece of shit. The main things I enjoyed about this movie was the relationship and the chemistry between Orm and Arthur. It's one of those typical movies where like two characters, you know, they really hate each other and then they have to work together, and they have that banter going back and forth. And I just think that Jason Momoa and Patrick Wilson really did a good job with the way how they acted, and they really portrayed the love-hate relationship very well. Of course, there's a few negatives that I have. You know, there's times that the story kind of didn't really make sense, or things weren't really fleshed out well. The runtime, it could have been a little bit shorter, but at the same time, it didn't feel like a long movie to me at all. I don't really think the runtime is a big issue. I would just more say sometimes the CGI kind of looked a little bit worse than the first one, and even then, like the first one sometimes had pretty dated CGI, especially when you have movies come out like Avatar: Way of the Water and Marvel's Wakanda Forever showed us, you know, CGI underwater, and it's like, okay, well, that's really, really, really good. So then you go to the Aquaman CGI and it's like, yikes. That's one of the negatives, definitely, is the CGI, because sometimes the hair under the water was looking like Aquaman, you know. I'm like, okay, well, that's not really good. It was not that much of a damper on the movie at all. Along with the whole story elements, there were some things that I could tell were just kind of like thrown in there, and it's like, okay, what can I really say? Because this is technically the death of the DCEU that we got. Joss Whedon's Justice League, and you know, Wonder Woman and The Flash and everything. This is pretty much the end of the DCEU that we knew with Henry Cavill and Gal Gadot, Ezra Miller, Ray Fisher, Jason Momoa. This is technically the movie that is the end of all that. For a movie like that, I'd say it was pretty decent, man. I really had a good time with it. So overall, as I said, pretty well done movie. I've seen where people say that it's one of the worst DC movies ever. It deserves 2 stars, 1 star. I'm sorry, I cannot agree with that. And, you know, to each their own. Everybody is entitled to their opinion, man. I'm not going to hate somebody because of their opinion. I'm not going to completely crap on all over somebody because of their opinion. You can like or not like something. We just don't need to attack each other about it. That's all. My opinion, this is a 3.5, 4-star movie. And the reason that I say that, I don't say it because it's so damn good. No, I say it because of the love I have for DC Comics, the love that I have for this specific character, and the growth and development of this character throughout time. Aquaman was seen as one of the biggest gag characters. He was a gag character with his little tights and no pants. He just was a gag character. He wasn't taken seriously until Jason Momoa came along with his Aquaman, and people were like, okay, Aquaman's cool now. It's wild. Even in the animated movies and TV shows, he started getting some traction, because in the New 52 timeline of animated movies, there's the Justice League Throne of Atlantis, with a young Arthur Curry taking up the mantle and, you know, getting drunk because his father passed away, and the Justice League coming in, trying to figure some things out that happened in Atlantis. Aquaman is smashing, bashing, and doing all these things, and he's dope. That's what I'm saying, is Aquaman has developed over the years, and it's a pretty good movie, man. So I do not necessarily see all the hate behind the movie, and I cannot understand why. The only thing that I can say is what I said earlier in the beginning. People just want to hate on things, especially because it's DC and like nerdy things and superhero things. Superhero movies have just declined in ratings the past few years, solely because I feel like people are, yes, they are burnt out a little bit from the superhero movies, but also people just want to hate on things just to hate on them. It's more popular to hate on them. So thank you guys for joining me in this video. I really appreciate any and all support. If you aren't subscribed to the channel, please hit that subscribe button and the bell next to it so you can get a notification anytime there's a new video. Please comment down below what you thought about the movie, if you've seen it, if you're looking forward to it, what's some things that you liked in the trailer, or some things you disliked in the trailer that you hope you don't see in the movie. Just your general thoughts about the movie at all. Comment down below. Thanks, guys. Until the next one.